Now imagine you're an HR professional, overwhelmed by endless paperwork, manual processes, and the constant juggling of tasks, from recruiting new talent to managing employee engagement and compliance. But what if there was a way to streamline these processes, save time, and focus on what truly matters, your people? Hey everyone, and welcome to this session of Workflow Wednesdays. Today, we're going to talk about how you can use AI and human resources. And we're going to show you some practical examples to get started right away. Let's get into it. We'll cover defining your people processes, mapping out those processes, integrating AI into your workflows, exploring real-world examples, and considering best practices and legal considerations. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear roadmap on how to make AI your co-pilot in HR, enhancing efficiency and effectiveness across your organizations. How to use AI in human resources. Let's get into it. People process. Well, what is a people process? Well, if you look at any organization, it's just a set of different processes. And one way to think about it is to split it up in these three different categories. You need to build something, you need to sell it, and then there's admin. Under each section is a bunch of sub-processes. And if those processes starts with a person, it is a people process. Now, that's a subset of all the processes that you have within your organization. So let's take an example here. Now, you might have a request to hire a person from a manager, and the manager, he fills out a form and tells you the reason why. Now, you might have a process that has an AI review if this is a reasonable request, and then send a suggestion to a supervisor. Now, the supervisor gets notified and makes a final decision. If this is approved, then move forward a certain way. But if it's not approved, then do something different. Very simple idea of a process. Now, this can be applied for any stakeholder. It could be towards employees, to managers, customers, and partners that you may have, all with different sets of processes that get started with a person. It can also be in any type of department, ranging from HR to marketing, finance, sales, etc. And it can be used to solve any kind of task as long as it starts with a person, ranging from things like communications or employee management, health and safety, where you're hiring people or onboarding them, legal and compliance, payroll, etc., etc. A ton of different examples for different use cases. Now that we've figured out what people processes are, it's time to go into process mapping. So how do you actually map up your people processes? Well, a good start is to actually take a look at all the processes you have and start with the ones that are most urgent and important, or the ones that bring you the highest value and are low effort of creating and getting value out of. You can use a prioritization metrics like the one you can see here, where you put the ones that bring you the highest value and are the lowest effort to complete into this bucket. But once you've picked a process, it's a good idea to actually map up how you do things today. So how does the process look like? And how do you actually want it to be? Where can you find some improvement areas? And once you've highlighted those, you can start to map up how you want the process to be before you start implementing it. Now, once we're finished with process mapping, it's time to actually make AI part of a process. So let's start by doing an overview of the AI options out there. And the first thing we did was, of course, to look at what Ben Evans had to say about the subject. Well, in the 70s, databases were called AI. 10 years later, machine learning was AI. But now, machine learning is just more of a software. And today, large language models are typically what people talk about when they talk about AI. 10 years from now, who knows? So if you look at the AI ecosystem, what people are typically talking about when they mean AI, they're talking about large language models. And the model builders for those large language models are companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, Google, and a ton of others. These model builders have built products like ChatGPT, built by OpenAI, Claude by Anthropic, etc. And when companies say that they're powered by AI, what they typically mean is that they have an API that connects to these AI products, which makes their offering way better. So if you go on Slack, for example, or Notion, and you ask these products to fill out something that you've started writing, they're probably using a Claude or an API to one of these products to power that. Now, you can also, in many cases, buy direct access to these AI products, such as ChatGPT or Claude. And when you do that, the offering that most people are used to is to put in a message, a prompt, goes into ChatGPT, and you get a response from it. Now, in this example, we have ChatGPT and Claude open at the same time, and we put in a simple prompt like, create a job description for a digital manager at a mid-sized e-commerce company. And we copy-paste that in, and then you can see both of these AIs will give us an answer in a couple of seconds that we can then use for the job post that we're about to push out. And there are a ton of these practical AI examples that we can get started with right away. And we added a few here in case you wanted to take a look at those, with the slides attached in the comments for those that want to play with that. And these can be used for everything ranging from recruiting people, onboarding them, employee engagement, and other aspects of HR. Now, you can simply copy paste a job description creation here, prompt, copy paste this text, change it the way you want to, digital marketing manager into whatever job post you have in mind, put this in the AI and see the results. You can, of course, edit this to your own needs. And we have a ton of prompts here, ranging from how you can summarize things you're posting on social media related to the jobs you're posting, employee engagement, designing an onboarding program. And we even have our own AI for things like these, where you can literally go in, ask it to build any type of workflow journey you want, and the AI will then spit out a response showing you how exactly that can be built within our system. But from here, you have a ton of prompts. Copy paste these, play with them, get some practical examples, and see how it works. But if we go a little bit deeper, what are we talking about when we talk about making AI part of a process? Well, this is what we're talking about. You message the AI, you get a response, and that's it. And then you copy paste that response. But when you have a workflow builder, it's built for people processes, you can make this part of a process. Let's say you have a product like Journeys here by 50 Skills, and you have an API so that when you type something in Journeys, it actually goes into a product like ChatGPT, it gives a response, and then back into 50 Skills. Now, in an example, that could be something like you ask the AI to check a document. So someone can upload a document of any type. Once they've uploaded the document, the AI will review and check the document, check if it actually looks good or if it needs a review. And once the AI has come to a conclusion, it will then continue. Either it's approved or it's not. So the workflow, it could be a form online that people upload a document, and it will automatically push that into the AI and move forward based on the response of the AI. And to show you some actual examples so that any of this makes any sense, we've provided a few here in the demo that we're going to show you. So we put together a few examples here. Let's say that you have an employee portal, a portal where you can tell all of your employees, if you need anything, just go to this portal and click any link that's relevant for you, fill out the form that's there, and once you fill that out, the process is going to take care of itself. Now, we have a couple of examples here where we added AI to such a process. So imagine here that you have a portal, and on the portal, there might be a use case where someone needs to change their work percentage. So what they're asked to do is to simply click the link and give some information about the changes that are occurring. They're going to fill this out. And the second that they've actually filled this out, what happened is that they got added into this workflow that you had created. And because we added Martha, we can actually see what happened to Martha as an individual that went through this process. So we just filled out the form, and then we asked the AI, okay, run this prompt with all of Martha's details and come to the conclusion if it needs a review or if it doesn't. In this case, it doesn't need a manual review. So therefore, it created the document, it filled out the details of it, you can download that here, and then we could have configured extra details such as sending it to e-signing or uploading it into a payroll system. But you kind of get the idea here. The AI automatically reviews if something is approved or not based on the prompt that you give it, and it will continue in the workflow based on that. So let's take some other examples here that we've prepped. So similar as before, you have a manager that needs to hire someone. So they have a form here, an employee hiring request form. They need to fill this out with some details. Why are they hiring a new person? Is it an increased workload? Is there an employee being replaced? Whatever it might be. They fill out all these details. And once they've filled them out, the individual gets added to this process that they've created. Now, in this particular process, what the AI will do is not move the process forward automatically, but it's going to send its conclusion to the supervisor that will give the final approval. So in this case, somebody had a request to hire a new person. What the AI will do is confirm the salary and benefits, and if they're compliant with the company policies and job description, it's accurate and appropriate. Here we have a large prompt that includes the entire job description for the role. It includes the policy overview for the company, salary structure, job grades and levels, salary ranges, all sorts of detailed information that's going to help it come to the conclusion if the AI believes that this request should move forward or not. Now, the AI in this case is not going to give out a token like we saw before, approved or not approved. In this case, it's actually going to provide the text details. It's going to review all of this and provide all the details, and it's going to take those details and send it in an email to the supervisor of the manager doing this request. So a manager is doing this request. It might be the supervisor, it might be the budget holder, whoever should be the person approving this. It's going to send all the details about this request to that supervisor, and it's going to include the values from the AI. So basically you can say here, because you had an AI action here above, ask AI to review this, you can simply click the plus icon, pick the AI, and ask it to add the details of its value here in the email that gets sent to the supervisor. This supervisor will then go ahead, review all of this, and simply decide if this is approved or not approved before continuing. And the branch here below will then do different things based on if it's approved or not. So again, very different process from the one we looked at before. In one of the processes, you had the AI completely reviewing if something needed review or not, and the process would move forward. But in this case, the AI is only amplifying it, making it easier for the supervisor to make a decision on their own with extra details. Let's review a couple other cases here. Let's say that you have a document that needs to be reviewed, like a P45 document, for example. So you have an individual here, we give him the name Zelensky, and he has a P45 document, details of employee leaving work. Now, typically someone would need to review all of this and make sure it's been added in the correct way. And before moving forward, they'd need to review that and say if it needed to review or not. But here you have a simple process where you have the AI doing that analysis. Now, the prompt that the AI is given here is fairly simple, might need to be more detailed to do the job properly. But for demonstration purposes, it's here asked to review the copy and tell us if it looks good or not, if it needs more review. And then the process is going to move forward based on a conclusion. Now, if it needs a review, it might send an email to HR, giving the details of why it needs a review and for a human to review it. But if it doesn't need a review, it might even add another AI action. In this case, find out the total earnings and tax paid this year, and then perhaps send that into the ERP or HRIS system, or wherever you want it to go, basically. And I think the huge benefits of these cases where you can have the AI do the actual work, you can really grasp the benefits of minutes saved for every single time it does that job. And you also have this pure paper trail of how it did it with every individual that went through it. So for example, if you had 100 people here, you'd be able to review Zelensky and all the others with all the prompts that were used and all the outputs and results from what was there. Let's move forward. AI sifting. You could have a process where people might apply for a job in your applicant tracking system or HRIS, whatever you use. Once people have applied for a job, you could automatically move them into a process like this one with a simple integration. A journey system like this would then basically go and rank the CV, make sure the CV, if the CV is good enough for this particular role. It could give it a rating of a scale, for example, between 1 to 10. You could do the same thing with a cover letter. And you could have a condition that says, look, if this individual receives a rating between 8 to 10 on the CV and 7 to 10 on the cover letter, then automatically progress these people to the next stage in the ATS. You could, of course, build this workflow in a completely different direction and make it do completely different things, but this is just to demonstrate how you can apply AI in different use cases to really add benefits, save time, productivity, etc. Now there's endless use cases here, and if I just open up one more here as an example, like you might have a portal here for all of your employees with a bunch of forms. People fill them out. In this case, let's just say it's an harassment complaint. And you could, of course, just have a human HR person review this or supervisor and decide on the next steps. The AI, however, can also be used as a co-pilot. You can decide exactly how the prompt looks like. You can decide if you add any type of sensitive information or detailed information into the prompt that you use. And don't forget that the prompt itself is the instructions that you give the AI. These are the instructions that you're giving the AI to solve this particular task. So the better the instructions, the better the output will be. In a sensitive case like with harassment complaints, you probably want to think about the AI as a co-pilot, maybe sending its thoughts to what should be done of how severe this is to the HR manager, which will then take the final step. The HR team would still get an email with all the details, and they could decide how to proceed with something, but it would have that AI co-pilot thoughts on what happened, how are things like these usually resolved, ideas of solving it, etc., whatever it may be. Now I could go on and on and on here, but as I mentioned in the beginning, you can map up your people processes, ranging from how you onboard people, offboard them, people going on sick leave, any type of people process within your entire organization. You can then add AI where you want to add it, and you can completely configure and customize how it's being used, when, where, and why. Now let's move forward and take a look at some considerations when applying AI. The first one is AI traceability. All the people that have gone through a process, like here, for example, in AI sifting, you can see the results for every single one of them. You can see how the AI was applied, in this case, to rank cover letters, CVs, for every single individual. You can see what prompt was used, what the results was, how the process was being applied, and if it moved an applicant forward or not. And you can use this for any type of use case you have. And if you feel something can be improved, then you can simply open up the process itself and change the prompt and improve the process from that moment moving forward. Whenever you apply AI, it's important to have traceability on where it was used, how it was used, towards whom, and how it moved someone forward in a process or not. If you have a list of people that have gone through a certain process, in this simple example here, we're looking at reimbursements with AI, you can see what prompt was used, for what person, at what time, and how it was part of a bigger process. And that creates certain transparency in why you're using AI, how you're using it, and the benefit that it can actually award you with. Now, there's different ways of using AI as well. There's the AI plus automation that we've talked about, and then there's AI plus human supervision. And each can have its own unique case where each makes more sense than the other. Basically, you add a prompt, and then the AI will decide if something moves forward or not. And depending on the results from the AI, the tree branch will move in different directions based on the AI's result. If the AI approves, it goes one way. If it doesn't, goes the other. And then there's the AI plus human supervision. You have an AI prompt, the AI comes to a certain conclusion, certain decision, but nothing is going to get moved forward unless you have a human reviewing it. Now, if you're starting to use AI, it can be really smart to start with AI plus human supervision. You put up a process, you really make sure that the AI is getting it right. You can do simple tests, and if it's getting the same conclusion as the human 99 times out of 100, or even always, then it might make sense to put on the automation. Different ways, considerations, something to think about. Then there's the matter of legal and responsible usage of AI. Now, depending on where you are in the world, there might be different laws that apply. But in places like the EU, then the EU Act was recently introduced. It talks about the importance of responsible AI. The world as a whole is trying to figure out what rules should be built around AI, what makes the most sense. Now, in the EU AI Act, the Act aims to ensure that AI systems are used ethically, especially in HR, where decisions impact people's livelihoods. There's an emphasis on transparency, explainability, and human oversight in AI systems. And there are prohibited practices, and this includes emotion recognition and biometric categorization in the workplace. Another consideration is the responsible usage of AI. We've highlighted 4 ways of working with AI in a responsible manner: conducting responsibility, transparency, accountability, and doing it ethically. Responsibility. Be conscious of the potential impact of AI on people and society. It involves careful consideration of fairness, safety, and compliance throughout the AI lifecycle. And transparency. Allow people to understand how you're using AI, including the data being used and the processes followed to make decisions. Accountability. Be responsible for the outcomes of using AI, ensuring that any impacts are monitored and addressed appropriately. Organizations must be willing to answer for how their AI behaves and make adjustments when necessary. And then finally, ethically. Adhere to moral principles and values during the development and deployment of AI systems. And this includes respecting privacy, avoiding bias, and ensuring fairness in how AI affects individuals. Now, we began by acknowledging the complexities and challenges in modern HR management. But as we explore today, incorporating AI into your HR processes doesn't have to be overwhelming. With thoughtful process mapping and the right tools, you can automate repetitive tasks, enhance decision-making, and free up time to focus on what truly matters: your people. The choice is yours. Continue navigating the complexities manually, or embrace AI to transform your HR operations. But remember, technology is here to augment your capabilities, not replace them. And as we step into the future of HR, keep in mind Peter Drucker's wisdom. Efficiency is doing things right, but effectiveness is doing the right things. Now, with AI, you have the power to do both. Thank you for joining this session of Workflow Wednesdays. And if you have any questions or want to dive deeper, feel free to reach out. Until next time, thank you.